Izzy and her mother live in a secluded mountain place. And Izzy wonders if there are answers why she's confined to this space. Well, in this house there is a room that holds the answers to her future. She just has to go in there and put her hands upon a book, because if you take a look, it's in a book. A witchy rainbow, witchy rainbow. You take a look, it's in a book. A witchy rainbow, a witchy rainbow. So, Hellbender is a Shudder original that is written, directed, starring, with camera work, coffee making, energy drink running, and pretty much everything on the crew done by Zelda Adams, Toby Poser, John Adams, who did The Deeper You Dig, and apparently they are a trio that is family that has made indie horror movies or indie psychological dramas for a few years. And I have to dive into more stuff that they've done, because I will say right now, even though I am very soon in the review, this is quite good. In fact, Hellbender is one of my favorite movies of the year, because it has a simple premise with a little bit of deep narrative, some good acting, some good money behind it. These are talented filmmakers. It isn't just, rich people getting together and doing family projects just to fluff their own egos. No, they have a passion for filmmaking, and they understand how to tell a good story, even if the story isn't all that deep, even if it's not, necessarily the most wholly original thing. This type of story has been done before. This is told in a way with great visuals and not beating you over the head with everything. It's kept simple and has an ending you can pretty much see coming a mile away. But the way they tell the story and the way they build it, it's quite good. I want to see more of what these people can do, and I'm going to dive into more of their movies. But anyway, yeah, it's Zelda Adams, Toby Poser, Lulu Adams, and John Adams. And there's other people in here, but it's a very, very small cast. In fact, I would argue that the actual amount of people on camera outside of the opening sequence is kept under fucking, 10 maybe. Maybe reaches 10 with a couple of the extras. So, it's from Addams Family Films. No, not with two Ds. It's not da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. No, it's not. They're creepy and they're spooky, even though this movie's ooky. It's not the double D, Addams Family. Okay, I'm done with the song references, I promise. Spoilers will come up here in a little bit. So basically, there's an opening sequence that pretty much, launches this movie. Like, oh shit, we're going to get this kind of movie. Like, oh, okay, like I wonder what's going on here. And I wasn't sure where this movie, or what entirely this movie was supposed to be at first, even though the story was obvious as it reached its conclusion. But it handled things in such a good way, with great cinematography, I gotta say, and very terrific acting. Like, it's not going to set the world on fire, but they obviously, again, have a passion for filmmaking. It's quite good. And keeps things subtle enough, and the visual effects aren't spectacular, but they're good for independent horror. And it's not something where they're going to use just nothing but special effects. They're going to use them when needed, but they're also great at using practical effects. There's some dead animal carcasses and some other stuff, and they tell a story through great expression. Like, this almost could be a stage play had it not been for the various visual effects that need to be done. Apparently, the idea came from Toby Poser. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, where she found out that she was donor conceived and wondered what would happen if her dad was actually the devil. So anyway, there's this family. It's Izzy and her mother, played by actual mother and daughter, Zelda Adams, the daughter, and Toby Poser, the mother. And they live in an isolated mountain area. It's the lights of a mountain town. Hey, nah. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry for the song references. Get a little caught up in that. They are just living in this very nice area. And the mother goes into town and basically tells Izzy, or Iz for short, hey, you don't go near people. You're sick. I don't want you to get them sick or you to get worse. And also they have a little isolated, underground garage band that they do, where actually they do some pretty good music. In fact, that's one of the things that sets this movie apart from other indie horrors that I've seen even this year. The music. The music's really goddamn catchy. It's weird that they will just cut to them playing, Izzy playing the drums, the mother playing and them both singing and doing some stuff. I don't know if that's actually them singing or if it's just dubbed in voices. I'm not totally sure about that. If it is them singing, hey, they could add more of that stuff and actually do their own soundtracks and not really have to pay any rights fees. But a very beautiful mountainous area, by the way, I do have to say. Very beautiful location shots. And Iz feels that there's a bigger world out there and she wants to interact with people and she's kind of tired of being isolated and everything. And you think, okay, maybe the mother doesn't have a reason. The mother's just being selfish. Or the mother does have a reason. Fortunately, this movie is not like Run that had Sarah Paulson in it that I really wanted to like, and it ended up being really goddamn shit. This is anything but shit. So, the writing actually, by the way, is really, really good. There's some terrific lines in this. She said, I went, after her mother got back from the store and, Iz went for a walk during that time, she's like, I went for a laugh. I went hunting for a laugh, but found a ghost. I almost think they're poets and they don't even know it. And they have this saying because, and I'm just going to say right now, they are into some kind of, nature-y, witchy stuff. Spring eats winter, winter eats fall, fall eats summer, summer eats spring. It's a vicious cycle and everything. And then we find out as things go on, things get more and more messed up, and as more layers of this, somewhat basic story get peeled back, we find out there's some weird shit going on here, and maybe the neighbors and everybody have a right to fear what's going on. Iz does end up meeting his friend Amber. That factors in a little bit later to the movie, or into the movie's conclusion. And there's just some other crazy visual stuff and weirdness and everything. It's just, Iz discovered more about herself and more about her mother than maybe she ever wanted to know, or maybe she always knew this and was just honestly always a bit dark herself. Maybe she just didn't realize it because she'd always been isolated. It's about isolation. It's about finding out who you are and also embracing the craziness that could be, just right there in your mind. And also, it's just a pretty damn good psychological horror movie that has some pretty good visual effects and very good practical effects, and they really understand filmmaking. This is quite good. I'm going to get into spoilers here in a bit, but if you have Shudder, please check this out. Hellbender is very, very good. So anyway, yes, let's get into spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay, so they're witches. They're witches. They're a mother and daughter, and they're witches. And the mother's been trying to keep Iz kind of confined, not because she doesn't trust her, but because she doesn't want her to go down the same path as her mother. Because in the opening scene, this is why I kept that away from the spoilers. There's a woman that ends up getting hung by a colony from a tree, and she ends up choking and start doing that. So yeah, her daughter has to basically pull out a gun and shoot her. Just shoot her, do all this stuff, or somebody has to shoot her. Basically, this is a bit of a weird opening. I thought actually we were going to be taking place in the 1700s or something. But no, this woman that had been hung from this tree turns out to actually be the mother's mother. Very weird there. And launches in the sky, burning up and everything, and oh no, what the hell's going on? So, anyway, there's a weird guy that shows up during the movie, and he's just hiking around, and the mother ends up basically finding out that he doesn't have kids, and he doesn't have any real ties to anybody, even though he does have a niece that lives nearby. And spoiler, it's this friend Amber a little bit later on. She vaporizes him. She takes some of his blood and vaporizes him because she doesn't want him to reveal the fact that they're there, even though this mother goes into town and gets supplies, but maybe the people don't know where she lives. Apparently Amazon doesn't deliver out there. She goes on her own. And then explores the woodsy, hillsy area, which, again, very, very visually striking. Great nature shots. And, of course, at one point she sees a deer, and I, of course, had to say, I'm home, dear. Everybody shut off the review right at that really bad pun. And essentially what ends up happening, I'm not going to get into tons and tons and tons of spoilers because I want you guys to actually check this out. But they have the band. The band's name is Hellbender. She kind of forms a bond with Amber and ends up going to a pool party. Well, her mother doesn't want her to do this kind of stuff because she's like, you can't be around people ever. Because it turns out the mother actually knows that there's a lot of darkness in Iz, and she actually wants to help her. Of course, there's one cool song, Get My Peace and Armageddon. It almost kind of reminds me of Josie and the Pussycats was like witchcraft type music. If you've seen Josie and the Pussycats with Rachel Lee Cook, then you know the kind of music I'm talking about. You don't even have to pretend to be nice because by the end, everything ain't gonna be all right. So, we get a lot of other weird shit at this pool party. She plays the drums while the song is playing. They do tequila shots, and there's this worm in this tequila. Well, Iz drinks that and starts to go all weird and see stuff, and the neighbor ends up arriving. Because it actually turns out that Amber doesn't live at that place. It's that she just uses their pool, and they have a pool party. Because seemingly these people have no security system at all, and they can just get through the woods and get right there. To Grandma's pool we go, woohoo. And it turns out that actually if you consume any, if you're like Iz and her mother, and they know they are, and you consume anything that has life in it, you actually get, especially if it's as far as, fearful for its life, you feed on the fear, you feed on the blood. It's about the pumping blood, about life. And Iz keeps saying she's not sick, but the mother insists, like, you really shouldn't be doing this stuff. And, well, it's about the life, it's your life, it's alive, it's pumping blood, and the whole wide world's whistling, and I can't whistle, but if you get that reference, you get that reference. And then Iz starts to get a little bit more demented. She asks, hey, what happens if we eat humans? Or we eat people? Well, then you'll know real power. Oh, that can't factor in for later. It turns out that as things go on, Iz ended up vaporizing the neighbor, basically, because the neighbor threatened to call the police. And much time had passed. We went, to the next summer, because the boys of summer are here, and as Don Henley once said, the mother apologizes for keeping this from her. We get a bunch of other, weird shit happening. And it turns out that Iz's powers are developing. She even says to her mother at one point, I can hear you hearing me. And she doesn't see Amber, obviously, because at one point she tried to choke Amber out, even though she didn't mean to. And a park ranger arrives, and this is after the mother and Iz had talked a little bit about being Hellbenders. That's why their band name is Hellbender. And talks to the park ranger and said, well, we don't know what happened to this guy, but maybe he was a Hellbender, and talks about all this witch stuff. He's like, haha, okay, yeah, you're all free to go. That's all we see from it. That's all we see as far as any possible crime being committed. Park ranger was like, well, my work is done here. I mean, your work? You didn't do anything. Didn't I? So, a terrible Barney impression. I'm sorry. So, then at one point they decide to do a weird ritual by eating maggots. And then they vomit blood on each other in the snow. This is very strange. Very, very strange movie. So, it turns out that mother's mother ate the whole village, children and everything, and yeah, or ate half the village, and just killed people, and it had to be killed. She was hung, and that's the movie's opening. And then Iz goes to apologize to Amber. She said, well, you let me borrow a bathing suit. Here you go. Oh, I kind of stole a couple of your berets for my hair. Sorry. And Amber kind of justifiably calls her a freak, says, get the fuck away from me. Well, that kind of sends Iz into a tiz, as it were. And she mentions to her mother about being, a wolf in sheep's clothing and stuff like that, a variation of it. Gets a little wordy, but it does serve a purpose at the end. That the lamb ends up killing the wolf, who was a sheep. Gee, wonder what that's going to be like. So, near the end of the movie, this conclusion comes very, very rapidly. Her mother has a vision of Iz eating Amber, who's cut in half and still alive somehow. 2.5 women, the lesser version of 2.5 men, despite the fact Charlie Sheen was in that. She goes down a hole, this hole that's in this weird area, this weird fleshy, almost vulva-like hole, What the hell is this? I've never seen this before, Mother is saying. She goes all the way down. What is this? It's my happy place. Is my happy place was a missed opportunity there. And I'm here to save you. Save me from what? Amber's down there, by the way, bloody and brutal and about to die. I don't know how she got her down there. And hey, you should show me yourself. You should show me the darkness that you have in you. And the mother does briefly. He's like, there you are, mother. There you are. And now it's my turn. We get this weird fire thing happening. She crushes Amber's head. Her head just collapses. The mother ends up getting beaten down. And don't worry, Mom, I'm not going to eat you. Not like the lamb eating the sheep. And the whole recurring thing throughout this is the mother a couple times will say, I'm going to town. You need anything? And Amber, or not Amber, but ends with, I'm going to town. You need anything? And that's the end. We get quick credits, and that's basically it right there. Now, that's a pretty damn good movie. It is obviously not for everybody. I can understand why people wouldn't like it, but after seeing A Banquet, The Feast, and a few other things, I might check out a movie called Fresh here in a bit. There's been some pretty good indie horror that's been released on streaming services. There's almost no reason to really go to the goddamn theaters, especially since theaters are limiting their times here. So this, well worth checking out, especially if you have Shudder. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It's A, by the way. A. It gets an A, just in case you're wondering. So, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.